Hi, my name's Aaron Short. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Let's give him a big round of applause for that wonderful performance here. I think we can do better than that. Let's get a bit louder. Okay, so today is Monday, September 27th. Thank you, by the way, guys. They can hear you, so be careful what you say. And I did fix the light. Thank you so much for your support with the channel, because I was able to actually fix the light.
That's funny.
I was able. That's how great our supporters are. I was able to fix the light with the wonders of modern technology. We have a new fundraiser today. It's the Spoon Phillips Microphone Headset Fund. Let's get this guy. So actually, he's on the show today. It's his last one for a while, so we're going to make the most of it. So don't worry about that too much. We have fixed it. He is making an appearance, as is Maury Rich. So without further ado, let's bring him on. Ready? Here they are. Ta-da! Oh, man. Yes, we have solved our technical problems. It was really nice because I scheduled this earlier, and when I went live, everyone was already here. They were all waiting for us. I feel really important, special today. This is great. So let's see who was waiting for us. The first in today was very big. So big I can't even read his comment. There we go.
Hey.
We'll just call today's show Technical Difficulties. Okay? Philip Watson. Hello, Aaron, Maury, and Spoon. He's the first one here. Good job. And
Hi, Philip.
Dr. McFarland. Howdy, fellas. He says howdy because he's in the south. That's why he says
Howdy.
that. BMO is here. Hi, everybody. Mark Johnson. Hi, Aaron, Spoon, and Maury. Mark Henry. Howdy all. Must be in the south as well. Old says hi from upstate New York. Skip says hi, checking in from Boston. Philip says, greetings, you soundhole sniffers. Oh, let's do the shot. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Cheers. And now you got to guess what drink each of us has in each cup. Welcome to the podcast. Can you guess what drink we have in each cup? And my light just fell off, so that's great too. I'm just going to pretend I'm doing Star Wars. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Yes, DIY is not my forte. That's why I don't build guitars. Oh, dear me. Where was I? Rosanna's here. Old says, did it start? I'm not getting anything. No, it didn't start. Don't worry, Old. You were fine. Rosin says, hi everyone in the chat. Back from a lovely day at the dog park in Connecticut. Very nice. Mark Johnson says, not getting anything here. Oh, don't worry. I'll skip past those. We've started. Jack says, congratulations to everyone who was not late. Oh, they're saying that we were late. Rosin, they must be running late. Got all these comments. Imagine if we hadn't gone live, Maury. What would all these people have done? What would they have done with it?
Find out.
Their Monday afternoon? Maybe Aaron forgot to plug it in. Well, I always say if it doesn't work, in fact, they did say that to Spoon, if it doesn't work, just restart it, right? Turn it off and turn it on again. It fixes most problems in life. BMO says, patience olds, it's Monday. Thank you, BMO. Rosin says, can the Signhole Sniffer sticker be put on the bumper of my car, or is it for indoor use only? I don't believe it's waterproof, but you could try it for me and let me know. I think it'd be better inside the car. And Philip says, I was right. And Roa says, hi all watching from Cleveland. It's a beautiful day. Jim says, a big green mountain state. Hello to everyone. You too, Maury. Hi from Brisbane, Australia. Very cool. What's the time in Brisbane right now? It must be about 4 a.m. Oh, it's 4 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. Wow.
Wow.
They're in the future.
Who won
Lewis.
the Cowboys game.
We back, baby. Olds, no patience left. Been a long weekend. This has become a Monday addiction like coffee in the morning. Bill, hello, Maury, Spoon, and Aaron. I'm ready to learn something new. Well, you came to the wrong place. I mean, you came to the right place. Hello, everyone. I'm working, so I won't be able to comment much. Oh, dear, he's working. Sorry, Lee. Lewis says, sorry I missed yesterday. I know, it's very disappointed, Lewis. I hope you'll be there next time. But we back, baby. The greatest of all time. If you missed yesterday, you missed a wonderful performance of a song from Sesame Street. So, this room is looking beautiful. The chat room or my room? Which one do you mean? Magic Light. Yes, courtesy of Maury's Music. No expense spared.
Hey, that took minutes.
Exactly. Marco, how you doing? He saw the Oasis documentary this week. I haven't seen it yet. Good evening to you. Good afternoon. Alex from Vienna, Austria. 01, hello from Germany. Oh, we've gone global, guys. We've gone global.
Hello.
You three are unbelievable. I can only imagine when you get a few pops into you. Yeah, that show will be coming at the holidays. BMO, Aaron has a cuppa, Teaspoon has a malt, and Maury has Mountain Dew. Okay, let's see if BMO's right. I do. This is tea in here. I won't tell you what kind, but you were half right on that. Spoon, do you have a malt in there?
No, a little early in the day for all that.
Maury, do you have a Mountain Dew?
I have cold coffee.
Cold coffee. That's that fancy iced coffee you get now.
No, it's just sitting around a long time.
Have you? Okay, we'll get to questions in a second. Let me just say, Australia is 19 hours ahead of us, of USA, and Cholorism, good to see you again from Walker County. Okay, great. So, if you're new here, subscribe, ring the bell. If you like what we've done so far, give us a like. If you don't like what we're doing, you can give us a thumbs down, but just press it twice. Okay, so because that will mean you really don't like this if you press it twice, and that'll be much better. Yeah. Spoon, old sense Spoon, a PayPal. Thanks for the nice email. Spoon has been liaising with Old regarding probably Martin, I presume, but possibly gardening or some other hobby. He's not going to tell us. It's a secret. So anyway, let's do this. We're going to do the questions. Remember, Spoon might not be around for a little while, so let's make the most of him while he's here. You can ask a question to me, Spoon, or Maury. Just put a Q for question and write your question. And if anyone cares to super chat, I'll bring that to the top of the list. And you'll be supporting Aaron Short Music. Thank you. All right. So take it away, people. I see no questions so far. They're all waiting patiently.
Well, I'd like to start off. I'd like to start off by first of all thanking you for having me back.
Thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
And the last time you were talking about doing the comparison, you were comparing the OM to the M.
Mm.
But I noticed that Maury had Maury on his own store's website has a comparison of an M and a GPC, which I thought was also quite fascinating. And I know, Aaron, you're familiar with the GPC, and
I have one here.
Have you done a direct M to GPC comparison in person?
No, I haven't got an M. We were going to do that today, actually. M versus GPC. Maury just posted one. I did take a listen. And I suspected that the GPC would have slightly more bass, slightly less mid-range. And I think that's what I heard. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Tim Teal, the M has been said before. The M, at the time the M came out, your only option was a short scale triple O and a dreadnought. Martin had been making OMs here and there since '69, but in very small amounts. They were still considered throwback 1930 guitars. And the GPC and the M, their goal is kind of the same. Something that's going to give you a bigger tone than you're going to get from a short scale triple O or double O, and is also going to give you a little more bass off the bottom E string. OMs, the dominant harmonic string on an OM is actually the A string. And when you hear people going back and forth with the alternate thumb picking, you'll sometimes kind of wish that bottom E string would pop out just a little more, especially if you're used to playing dreadnoughts. So for people who find dreadnoughts too uncomfortable or too big, those two options come from two different time periods. And I know Tim Teal really prefers the balance of the GPC. There's a third way to accomplish that same goal, and that's to have the deeper body. And that's what you got. Certain Bill Tippin and some other builders were making deep body OMs, and Martin has made a couple of deep body OMs here and there, a couple of deep body double O's. And that's the other way to try to accomplish that non-dread but slightly bigger voice, slightly more projection, and just a little more bass than you're going to get from the traditional auditorium size. And I think the GPC probably accomplishes it best if your main goal is that extra bass. If your main goal is balance but more volume projection, then I would say the M's probably the best way to go. If you're a diehard OM player, you might like the deep body OMs. I think they sound a little tubbier in the mids, kind of in the same way the CEO 7 sounds a little tubbier in the mids. When I say the mids, the DA and up the neck on the E string, it's a little thicker sound from a deep body OM compared to those other instruments. But I just wanted to bring that up because I think it'd be a great idea for you guys to do that comparison and see, particularly if you did the blind comparison like you did the other one. Do a GPC to a similar M if you have anything like that available.
We will possibly do that next week, right, Maury?
Yeah, there's a good chance that's coming sooner than later, really.
Yeah. Thank you, Jim. I'm a man of my word. Let's bring him up on the screen. Thanks for super chat. Really appreciate it. Says QQQ. This is a really important question. Okay, Spoon, you ready? Thoughts on a Martin 0017 Authentic 1931 VTS. Take a breath. Martin 0017 Authentic 1931 VTS for blues playing. VTS hogtop with VTS Addy braces. Local shop has 2 in stock.
Wow, I would love to play them. I have not played VTS mahogany tops. That's a very late development. Martin was trying to work on that ever since they started their version of torrefaction, and they found it was making the wood too brittle, so they did not do mahogany, and they didn't do koa on the 28K that they made. That was the first 12 fret authentic model. I've only recently played again a 0017 authentic, and love the guitar. A friend of mine's has one that he bought used, and but I've not played the VTS version. So I would think they would be awesome. I didn't quite understand the question. Are they both of them have anti-bracing? So they ought to order 2 of the exact same guitar. That sort of sounded like what you were saying, or were you saying one of them had anti-bracing and one of them didn't? But I'll assume for now they both have anti-bracing. I think they would be killer blues guitars. If you can take that wide neck and you don't need 14 frets, or in my case 17 or 18 frets, I would think they would be an awesome fingerstyle blues, and probably slide guitar. Hardwood tops have excellent sustain on the fundamental note. It just stays around a little longer before it starts to drop off, and the older they get, the more that happens, and then you start to get that, once they start breaking in, you get that harmonic glow that comes up and out, that comes up and meets it, and the older it gets, the more pronounced that gets. So they're really, I would think those guitars would be excellent for playing slide as well as fingerstyle blues.
So is that a thumbs up from Spoon Phillips? 2 thumbs up. Okay, see you later. Bye, Jim. Have fun at the store. Roeth, wondering if I could hear your opinions on Martin Retro strings. What do they do to tone, and whether they are better on certain guitars?
Well, what they do to tone is they change it. They have their own tone, and they're better on certain guitars.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Retro strings are made with the wound strings are made with a special alloy it's called Monel. Monel is the actual process, And when they came out with these in the late 60s or early 70s, it was a very expensive process to do, and it wasn't practical, so they didn't stay around. They were originally designed to try to keep magnetic pickups, sound hole pickups, from wigging out, and
Oh,
and that was their initial purpose. But people found they actually liked how they sounded acoustically, and I think Monel strings are safe for people who are allergic to nickel, because I don't think it's either a nickel alloy, but because it's an alloy molecularly, there's no problem with. I have a nickel allergy that I developed as I got older, so I can't wear like normal belt buckles and stuff. But
Mhm.
so that's something you might want to look into, because I've never looked into the science of it. If Monel strings have an issue with people with nickel allergies, but I think they have a unique sound that is I mean, when words like warm and warmer get passed around, it's a different kind of warmer than when you're talking about rosewood versus maple stuff. But compared to the normal alloys that are used, the phosphor bronze and 8020s, um, I know some people say it sounds like it's a pair of strings that's already been broken in, for people who don't like that brand new flashy string sound. I'm not sure I'd agree with that per se. I think they sound best on mahogany guitars. I've not liked them so much on rosewood guitars. I think there's something about 8020s that I like on rosewood guitars that I don't get out of phosphor bronze or other kinds of strings. But regular mahogany spruce, I like them on there. I know Martin ships them on the 17s, because the 17s have, with that very light finish and small bridge plates, and they're very airy, responsive guitars. And some people think they sound that they're lacking some warmth, and I think those strings probably help that. Excuse me.
Nice mug. I wonder if they've changed them, because they changed they changed the standard strings, right? I wonder if they've changed the makeup of those strings over the years since they released them.
That's a good question. I don't think they have. They haven't. They only brought them back just a few years ago, really. How long has it
yeah.
been, Maury, do you think?
It's less than 3 years now, and I know that to your point about them sounding warmer on certain guitars, Martin does elect to put them on the 17s and the juniors because, and it's a kind of a global answer, but they want those guitars to have a little bit less. I don't want to say shrill high end, but off the record, I do think some of those guitars could sound like a little bit shrill if you have a brand new set of phosphor bronze on a junior or 0017. There's a reason that Martin's R&D department decided to make the change, because originally some of those guitars were shipping with phosphor bronze, and the change was made after those guitars came to market. So I think whether or not we agree it's an older sound or a broken in sound, there certainly is some kind of a upper mid-range treble reduction that sounds favorable to certain kinds of guitars, even in Martin's R&D department's eyes.
I always heard that as well. I always read that they have a warmer tone, but I tried a set a few months ago, and I didn't feel like that at all. I actually really liked them. They felt a bit different, but
Well,
I
see,
was surprised. That's why I wonder if they've changed them over time.
there again, words like warm say mean different things in different brains.
Mm.
And years ago, somebody on the Acoustic Guitar Magazine forum or whatever, it's like, what's all this talk about all this sound stuff? All I need to know is whether a guitar's warm or bright, as if warm and bright belonged
Mm.
on the same scale somehow.
Yeah.
Where, yeah, granted, both of them are metaphors for light, but warm to me doesn't speak so much of warm light, but warm and bright. I mean, obviously, I think my theory is music has been around for such a short time in human evolution that we do not have an inherent language to describe musical tone. And
Mm.
so that's why people like me turn to metaphors all the time, whether it's talking about light or sound, light or warm versus cold, uh, going to the wine reviews language or whatever to get the flavors and of what we're hearing. Also, the 17s are supposed to have been inspired by the affordable guitars from the Great Depression, from Sears and Roebuck and Montgomery Ward catalog and stuff like that. That's where they got that idea from. Everything from the finishes to the very like one ply finish on them, where you can actually feel the wood grain. So I think they're matching their retro strings with their retro guitars. I think that's kind of part of their marketing thinking. I would say try them. This is the one thing when people are looking for answers about strings, it's easy to go on the internet and decide not to try something because certain people said they didn't like them, as opposed to trying them and see if you like them with your guitar. But with Roth having a 0018, I would say, give them a try. See what you think.
That's the thing. It's a very cheap experiment. So, just give Maury a call, order a set of 3 or 4 or 5 different strings, and just try them all and see which one you prefer, right?
Here's an interesting thing about them. Lawrence Schuber's signature strings are retros. And Lawrence, until this happened, Lawrence would change his strings before every show. He said on his Telecaster, he plays them until the strings fall off, but an acoustic guitar, he destroys them in one show.
Wow.
He plays so hard, he does so much bending, and his body chemistry might have something to do with this as well, but he wants to have the most vibrant strings he can get. And I would not refer to these as vibrant strings, but he's been using them now for years, ever since Martin approached him about doing a set of signature strings. And just go watch any recent, and he's on opposite Aaron every day at 4:00 playing at tea time. He does a set from his house, and
every day
you can watch it every day and watch and replay. He's been doing it since the lockdown started.
Wow.
And different themes each day and different guitars, but it's a great place to hear retros on different guitars made from different woods.
No, I agree. When they released them, it was around the time of the Retro Series guitar, so that was confusing. I remember thinking, are those strings for the Retro Martins they just released? And of course they weren't. But I think I've got a feeling I did try them back then and I didn't like them. But I tried them a few months ago and I liked them. Not enough to move away from I keep calling them the standard strings. What am I trying to say, Maury?
Phosphor bronze?
Just the phosphor bronze authentic acoustic ones, yeah. I didn't like them enough to move away from that, but I did like them. And I think you're right. It's such a personal thing. Like, we all have different, sweat and guitars and ears. So why not just try them and see? So, Roeth, if you do try them, then make us a little review and we'll show it on the show. You can review them for us. That'd be great, yeah. Let us know what you think of them compared to what you're using now. And also, let us know in the chat what strings you use. That'd be interesting to know. Maury, what's your most popular string that you sell?
Probably the Martin Phosphor Bronze Lights, the MA540Ts.
Yeah. I assume so.
And as funny as it sounds, we don't sell a lot of strings as much as you might think, but the bulk of the string orders we get are for either for mediums or lights in the Martin Phosphor Bronze range for sure.
Yeah, I thought so. But they do make a lot of different strings, so yeah, give them a try and let us know what you think. All right, I've got some questions without a cue, but I'm not going to ask them. I know I might upset you, but I can't afford to do it. If I ask a question without a cue, I then have to ask every single question, and I want to filter through the chat. There's so many comments with the cue. So if I don't read your question out, please type it again with the cue, because I'm going to filter this out, so I won't see all the comments. So I apologize. So the next one with a cue was from Ricardo. For Spoon, do you use a hardware compressor and preamp on every mic when tracking acoustic guitar?
No, I don't. I don't add anything until after the fact. So, because that gives you the opportunity. If you record with something, you can't get rid of it. So I record straight, and I pay attention to the levels, and then I will sometimes bring in a compressor after the fact, and I'll sometimes, but just a little bit, to try to, but I do also add EQ. I typically will add EQ to drop off the stuff that most people can't hear on both ends, to get rid of bottom end mud and high end hiss. And then I'll play with a notch filter sometimes based on the room and the mic setting and see if there's something that needs to go away in a very tight notch filter. And then when I was doing my album, I eventually did bring in what was basically kind of a noise gate. There's a term for them. I can't remember what it is right now, but that where a compressor compresses, this thing simply doesn't allow anything to, it's like a brick wall. It just doesn't allow anything to go to spike over that. And it allows me to get more.
Oh, a limiter?
Similar to, some kind of, there's a particular name for the kind of limiter, but it's, but anyway, I don't record with anything and then do it in after the fact.
And what I like about the Apollo is that you can load like a plugin and record with that for yourself, but then you can either save that or not. And if I don't record that as I record. I just use it for monitoring, and then when I mix, I can then reapply that and change that after, like you said, after the fact. But I can actually have that reverb and EQ and compression on the way in just for monitoring if I want to. So the Apollo Twin is really cool for that. Yeah, it's all in real time as well because it runs the plugins in the hardware. So it's like using an actual physical compressor, but it's not actually recording it.
I do realize that was the classic way to do it back before they had all this digital stuff where you had to, that's what you did. You recorded with it, and I use an Antelope audio device that is, they're the ones that make the modeling microphones. I don't use any of that stuff, but that's their big thing. I really wanted something that had 4 high quality preamps. That's basically all I wanted. The plugins for that have tons and tons and tons of old world, old timey models of every kind of effect you can think of, from compressors and reverbs and all that, and amps and all that. But they actually give you a cyber version of the real controls with the switches and dials. So you're not seeing any kind of not seeing what I'm used to seeing. So you have to sit there and turn the dial and listen to it and turn the dial. I've never really used those, but you can see that, old school guys want to have that analog, interface.
Yeah, I think Apollo and Antelope are basically the same. They have the same kind of idea of the hardware running those plugins, and you buy the plugin. It gets quite expensive, but they are incredibly good. I love all the Apollo stuff. So the Universal Audio stuff is amazing. But the thing is, like you said, it's interesting how they're still modeling the old stuff and the interface as well. Like when are they going to move away from that and say, okay, here's that algorithm, but just with a modern interface? It's like when you buy a Helix and it has a Fender Twin. Like, are people going to know in 10 years what a Fender Twin is? Or are they going to rename it just Clean Sound 1, Clean Sound 2?
10 years from now, there's still going to be people buying at auction vacuum tubes from 1953. So
yeah, no, I know, but I mean, like, will a 15-year-old buying a Helix when they turn it on, they'll Fender Twin, like Marshall, what's that?
Yeah, right.
So it's an interesting approach. Okay, to Spoon and Maury. Do you know if Martin are planning more models with cherry or walnut back and sides?
Me first?
Yeah, Maury. We'll give Maury a shot this time.
Spoon, it's funny. Normally when Spoon's not on the program, we'll say, let's ask Spoon next time he's here. So he's going to go after me. But without giving away too much, I have a very good feeling that there's going to be more cherry sooner than later. I don't pretend to know which models, but I think what I do suspect is they're not done with cherry. I haven't heard any talk about walnut, and when I say that I've heard these things, that could be all thrown upside down with what's been happening in the world in the last couple of years. Any kind of schedule we thought was going to happen where we might see more Road Series guitars at a certain time and vice versa. Who knows when, and some things might be put on back burners, but I would put my money on cherry sooner than walnut from what I think I've heard.
I'm not allowed to say anything. I don't work for Martin. Actually, just in the past 2 years, I've had some official work from Martin, writing some stuff for them. But I'm not, I don't work for Martin. And if I talk about things that I see, on somebody's desk or whatever, then I don't ever get to go into that room and see that desk again. So I don't talk about this thing.
I think the OM Cherry was so successful. Like, why wouldn't they? I mean, they have to. That's how I've realized now. That's how they work. They make more of what sells, which completely makes sense, doesn't it? But you don't realize that when you first get into guitars and things. All you think is, oh, why don't they make more F1 plus pickups and things like that? Why don't they make more cutaways? Well, because they don't sell. So the cherry definitely sold, so they'll definitely make more with cherry. I don't know either, but I just, that's I see that happening. But then, like Maury said, with everything that's going on, we can see them now just making as many OM28s and D28s and HD28s as possible. So I can't imagine they'll want to deviate from that at all into the other models with the cherry yet. So yeah.
Is the OM cherry still on the books, Maury? Is it still?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I didn't know. I haven't paid attention recently if they've quietly retired some things. But yeah, that's a very successful model. So if they, and there've been previous OM cherries and D cherry models, but not with the modern simple dovetail neck joint and not with the specific woods where the top's concerned. It's very, very successful model.
Mm-hmm.
Bill says, Spoon and all of you, can you talk about the Martin experience? I recently got my first Martin, congratulations, 0028 Standard Series, and was overwhelmed. Lots of sound, undertones, overtones, too much at first. What do you think of that, Spoon?
I grew up playing a mahogany guitar, and that was basically a 00018 from Korea or Japan or wherever it had come from. And my first Martin was a big Indian rosewood, Sitka spruce dreadnought. And that was really kind of overwhelming. That sound was not what I was used to. It was so thick and warm and woofy. And it was something about it, like eating a dark chocolate cupcake. But at the same time, it was not what I was used to. My second Martin was a 1953 0018, and that kind of brought me back to where I was coming from, only greatly elevated in terms of the level quality of the wood and the purity of the tone and all that stuff. And so I can sympathize. When he said the Martin experience, I thought he was talking about the road shows that they do,
me
that
too.
people go into the shops. But which, if they ever bring them back, COVID willing, I highly recommend people go to those if they ever get a chance to go to one.
I'm not sure I would.
Yeah, tell me about your guys' Martin experience. I know Aaron's newer to it than Maury. But
I'm not sure I would call that a Martin experience. Like we said, 0028, Rosewood, Sitka. I would call that more of a Rosewood experience if I dare. And scallop bracing, I don't think that's. I mean, there is a Martin sound, so that would be the Martin experience that we're talking about there. But then if we're just talking about like the 0028 and having the undertones, overtones, I'd say that's a result, at least partially, of the materials and the bracing, as much as the whole Martin thing. So while
you're certainly not going to get it to the same degree when you're buying a $300 Alvarez or Washburn that's got rosewood back and sides. You're not going to.
But you made a good point, like about the mahogany. Like to me, that doesn't have that sound. So that's why I believe that the materials in that, and that's why I like the 28 series so much and the standard series, like the East Indian rosewood back and sides, the scallop bracing, the way they do everything, that has a sound. I've heard that in other brands as well. And like I said, I'm trying to make myself clear here. There is a Martin sound, but I think a lot of that sound we're talking about there is influenced by those materials. So if Bill had got a 0018, you wouldn't have been as overwhelmed by those overtones and undertones, I think. Do you agree?
And some brands, the rosewood Sitka sound is lusher. I think Martin has a very lush rosewood, much more complex, and but I always called that smoky rosewood undertone. That's what I used to call it initially when I couldn't really put it into words. But that body resonance thing that's behind the mids and low mids, that people who prefer some brands that are much clearer consider muddy and too thick and too smoky. And that's the Goldilocks just right for me. And where Santa Cruz, to me, rosewood Sitka sound becomes too thick and fudgy for me. and
Yeah.
they're probably the closest I could relate to Martin of any
The
of the
Martin
brands.
experience for me, I like the way the guitars feel. Like I like the necks, I like the way they feel, I like the resonance they have more than some other brands. But like I said, I'm sure there's other brands that also have a similar sound to what Bill's talking about, which as a result more of the construction and those wood types. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how I find it. What about you, Maury? When you
Right.
first played a Martin compared to the other brands you played?
Well, to tie into what you guys are saying, maybe it's all relative to what Bill's coming from. Bill, if you can put in the chat, let us know what you had before that. I'd love to know what your reference is when you go to the 0028. That might have something inherently meaning, what causes you to say what you said. But my experience, I was playing a Yamaha. It was a rosewood guitar with spruce top, and it was in comparison to what I eventually learned through Martin. It was very plain and immediate, and like Spoon's saying, it didn't have the real lush overtones in it. It seemed like there was an instant immediate reverb, and almost like when you're playing piano when you put the sustain pedal down and you kind of get help, whatever you change from one chord to the next, there's that what's not happening in a very plain guitar is happening in a Martin, and I just immediately fell for that. So whether or not it's just technique, but I love when you're playing a chord and you go to the other one and the first one's not done yet and you're playing the second one, and some guitars are so full of it when you go to the third chord you're still hearing some decay from the first chord. Like what's happening between things I think is really pleasing in rosewood, and that's my Martin experience for finding an Ohm 28V. Could I have found that in different brands? For better or worse, long before we had a store, so it's not commercially related, I never went looking for anything after I found the Martin sound, so I'm not sure if you bring Gibson and Guild and Taylor into it. I need to be educated more on those brands to know that it's not a Martin thing, but that's what I loved about what I heard in Martin.
That's fascinating, Maura, because I would say you just kind of just went down a scale from Guild. Like if you're playing a D25, you're playing a one of the Gibson Rosewood square body dreadnoughts, or the Taylor 800s. To me, you're talking about that immediacy, and we go right down that line. You get less and less of that lusher stuff, and people who really love the traditional Gibson sound can have a problem with, even with a D18, with having too much of that sustain and too much of that stuff building up and rolling over and quivering around, when what they want is, as somebody quipped, that Gibsons have decay for days, and they want the immediacy and they want it to fall away before they move on. And then you get into the archtops, where that's archtop, mahogany archtop. I mean, maple archtop guitars have almost none of that at all, and that's what some people's ears want to hear. So
Yeah, let's know what you think in the chat. Chat yourselves. Spoon, do you have a favorite non-standard tone wood? Yeah, it's funny. We always talk about spruce and mahogany, and it was so interesting when Daisy was on, because she's talking about woods I never even heard of before. And it makes you realize that there is more to guitars than just mahogany and rosewood. Believe it or not, unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah, it's interesting. She's so enamored of Paduk, and I have not had much experience with that. Favorite, I don't know. I think Bay Myrtle is gorgeous, can be absolutely gorgeous. But I've only heard a couple of guitars ever been built with them. So do I have a favorite? I thought it was interesting what she also said about African Blackwood and not knowing where the sources were, and given the political situation that goes on often in certain countries, not necessarily wanting to get involved and all that. African Blackwood's being a true rosewood and has properties similar to Brazilian and Cocobolo and stuff like that. A favorite. I'm a fan of walnut. I like walnuts. I like the walnuts. That's why I've only played like Claro walnuts, and they've all been American walnuts. That's why I asked her about English walnut and if people were actually building with them. Most people don't seem to hear what I hear. I tend to be able to hear the different subtle differences between the different species of rosewood. When I'm sitting there hovering over them, looking for them, it's not like I'm going to think I'm going to hear them in on every recording. But so I'm really curious about hearing walnuts from places other than the United States.
Yeah, cherry and walnut. We just talked about
in the
that.
spirit of keeping this program moving along, I'm going to say I really don't have one. I don't want to elaborate on why, but I've tried maple, walnut. We had some, cocobolo, Guatemalan, waterfall, babinga a couple times, but I don't have a lot of experience with the alternative stuff, and I'd be, taking advantage of your question if I answered you any differently. I'm rosewood, mahogany, and more rosewood than anything, but that's my answer.
Well, I made a joke about it, but I guess, again, that obviously sells, doesn't it? People like that stuff. It works. Right?
Well, when Maury and I first got to know each other, one of the things I realized early on is we had a similar ear taste-wise in what you could call a brothy tone, that thick, soupy rosewood stuff, that smoky background, but I call it smoky rosewood tone because it's like the way smoke fills a sunbeam, where you don't see it, and yet it's something that's there that's not there in non-rosewood guitars most of the time, and it's not and there nearly as much, or at least for me, like I said, my Goldilocks just right is Martin rosewood. So Maury and I bonded over that pretty early. In fact, at the time we both had OM 28 VRs. So
I still have mine.
You both had the same guitar. Interesting. Old says, did Martin play around with alternative bracing patterns other than X bracing? It's a good question.
Good heavens, yes. But you're really going back a long way. He came from the Viennese school, but actually apprenticed in Italy, and so that was all like ladder bracing, and then he experimented with fan bracing when he got to the United States and started encountering guitars that were made from the Cadiz school from Spain, and there's all kind of unusual bracing on early Martins. Most of them small bodied. I think anything in an O or a double O. He started making the double O size. We know now, as early as the 1840s, though it didn't appear in the catalog until 1872. But I think all of those have X bracing. There might be some O size that have some unusual bracing early on, because he would build, if somebody requested something, he would build a guitar to their specifications if he could. But no, by the time you get into his old age and CF Jr. taking over in the 1870s, it's pretty much X bracing. They did do some ladder bracing for other clients, like the original Dreadnought that was built first originally for a Hawaiian slack key player, a famous Hawaiian musician, and then the Ditson department store saw it and said, I want one of those. And those were originally ladder braced, and they were designed to be played on the lap with a slide. But Martin, and they probably made a variety of ladder braced, or they may have been fan braced even. But I don't know if anybody knows what this stuff means. Ladder bracing means it just goes across, kind of like back bracing. Fan bracing is what you have on classical guitars that goes like that. And there've been other variations that he experimented with over the years. But anything in the Martin brand made for steel strings was made with the X brace.
And let's face it, if they moved away from that, they probably upset a lot of people, right?
Well, it would be. I could see them doing alternative stuff, and I'm sure those guys play around with it in the R&D stuff. They get bored. They love automotive design and pocket knife design and all that, so they're always playing around with things and seeing what it does to the sound and all that.
It just makes me think when Taylor went to V bracing, just like half the people thought this is great, I can hear the difference. Half the people said they made a mistake, they should have stayed with the old one. That was a big move to change the bracing of all their guitars.
Yeah,
I got to play a size 14 Taylor next to both of them. I got to play the new one next to last year's model at Sam Ash, and I thought it was the difference was immediately apparent, and it made me think, oh yeah, it's got a little more Martin-esque body resonance to it. It's about time.
Oh, you like the V bracing?
I saw what was different about it. I could immediately hear that was different. There was a little I don't think Taylors have much body resonance, but the V bracing brought some of that in, and there was but it definitely changed more than just that. So I could totally see a big time Taylor fan who really loved that Taylor sound saying, "What have you done? Why would you do this to me?"
Yeah.
Because those are exact same people that don't think that think Martins sound muddy and busy, and that's not what they're looking for chime and clarity and and sustain where everything stays like in picture perfect, notes going right down the freeway lanes.
I just think if Martin did some change like that to all their models, it would be a bigger deal to a lot of people. That's just so.
Oh, if they made a change like that to everything, yeah, it'd be huge.
Thank you, Mark Henry, for subscribing. I really appreciate it. And sent me a PayPal as well. And didn't even ask a question. If you ask a question, I'll bring it to the top. Mark Henry, thank you. Lots of questions with no cue. Like I said, don't be mad at me. I have to stick to the rules. Sorry. Next one is Ricardo. What is the difference, if any, between the Eric Clapton strings and the authentic strings?
I knew that. The alloy is slightly different, and the cores might be a little different. The cores might be... I did know this. I'd have to ask Dick. Or I could ask Dick. He would know. And Dickinson will probably know those guys. There is definitely a difference. There's a slightly different alloy difference. And I don't remember what it is right now. But
can I ask a question of Spoon while we're talking about this? Could it be... did the Claptons use the same core as the old SP strings, or is that changed now?
It might be. It's something like that, but I think their wrappings are slightly different as well. And it's something that came from someplace else. And he said, yeah, but I like these. And they said, okay, we can make those for you. So, he played some other brand and he remembers some string from way back when. And those were the great strings, I wish somebody would make those. And I think they researched them. And this is kind of folklore at this point. I don't remember where I got that information, but there's definitely a difference. I was originally told, oh, those are just the old marquee strings without the wrapping. And I found out the silk wrappings, and I found out that wasn't true at all. They were definitely different.
Wouldn't it be funny if it turned out that Eric Clapton actually prefers the authentic strings?
It would.
Rosanna, thank you for moderating. Thank you for helping with the chat. Really appreciate it. What do you think about the Martin? There's a lot of stringy questions today. Silk and steel strings. What do you think of those?
Well, under very high recommendation from a very enthusiastic player that I met at a guitar shop, I tried them in 1989. So they weren't for me, but they are. I do know people that have the 016 New York model from the early 60s. That's what they use because there's less tension in the strings, and you get a mellower tone. You don't get any of that sort of sheen that you get from phosphor bronze, and you don't get any of the sheen you get from 8020s. Definitely the silk in being involved in the winding takes a lot of that metallic edge away. So for people who like nylon string sound, they don't sound like nylon string, but the wound strings sound closer to the strings on a classical guitar. They're really designed for the lower tension. They're designed for vintage instruments or people who are playing a guitar that might have been really braced for nylon strings, but they want to play steel strings. This was before they all came out with the flexible core stuff over the years.
Yeah.
But
I haven't tried them, but I heard that aren't they the ones that people use because they don't damage the bridge or something, the saddle
No,
stock?
no, you're thinking of the silked strings.
Ah,
Again, Martin's good job, Martin. Again, using confusing language. The old marquee strings have silk windings at the end of the end of the string to protect the bridge plate,
right.
and they really do change the sound. That's one of the subtle things
Yeah.
that I seem to be one of the few people who hear the difference, but I played them for years because of that. Now now I'm a cheapskate, so I'll play any Martin strings. I don't, but I prefer them, and I think it really takes a little bit off of the high end shrillness of new strings. But no, silk and steel are actually they're actually designed for nylon string guitars that's for people who
Mm,
want to play with steel strings.
okay. Any thoughts, Maury?
They're
Yeah,
folk
they're very,
strings.
very easy to play. There's almost no tension, and
Mm,
I've done setups for some customers who are, saying this guitar is for a teenager and they're just starting, or somebody's very arthritic and for whatever reason, we've had an exchange, during the order. What do you want your guitar strung up with? And a lot of the people that ask about them have either tried them already or have said, a friend of mine has them on their guitar. It takes a lot of the long scale, high tension snap and like Spoon said, brilliance away. But man, are they a joy! You can't really overplay them. If you're like me and you think this is so much easier, why don't I use these? Minutes later, you're like, that's why I don't use these. They don't hold up. They
mm,
just want real sloppy. But if you're a fingerstyle player who doesn't have to have a large attack or a heavy attack, they are extremely. That's what you should try if you're having a hard time playing the acoustic guitar and you don't want to go to 11s or 10s. They're
mm.
certainly worth looking at if you don't mind losing a little bit of top end.
That's a good point. I had forgotten all about that. That's exactly why some people use them. And if you're that player who's just play soft strumming and pretty finger picking, they were designed for the folk music scene in the early 1960s. So by all means, go for it. Try it.
I just want to add, I think it's worth trying strings. Like I said, they do change the construction of them, or whatever the recipe, whatever they want to call it, every few years. Sometimes for marketing, and sometimes they do improve them. Sometimes they make changes and people don't like them as much. But also, sometimes our tastes change as well. I think it's definitely worth trying different strings every few years, even ones you've tried before and possibly don't like. Definitely worth. Like I said, it's a fairly cheap experiment. I mean, the Martin strings were changed, weren't they? I was so worried about it. Remember they changed the authentic acoustic about 2 years ago? And I know, because sometimes things change and we don't like them more. Like they're not improved for us. Or we have that initial period where we're like, are they as good? And then maybe we think that they are later on. But that always scares me when companies make changes like that. Like,
Change is scary. Yeah.
I'm
Same.
not a big string bender, and so I tried the flexible cores and didn't like them, and that's one of the things they did is the cores in the Authentics are more flexible than they used to be. That's really the biggest change, and like you said, I've gotten used to them. They're not nearly as flexible core strings, which they still make. Um, the real genius to me was Dick Boak coming up with the .5 strings,
Mm,
so it was 12.5 instead of 13s, or 11.5s instead of 12s, and
Yeah.
they were perfect. And so they, of course, had to stop making them in 8020s when they only make them in phosphor bronze.
Yeah.
So they were my favorite string while they lasted. But
there you go. Change. Yeah, 12.5 gauge. Yeah. I also remember all strings have different tensions too. Because I often point out that the Elixir strings have more tension than the Martin strings. So some people say that about Taylor, or Taylor is hard to play, hard to bend the strings. And I always tell them to change the strings on it, because if they got it from the store with Elixir, and you're comparing that directly to a Martin with
yeah,
Martin
and
strings,
that's
there's
what
extra.
the core. That's what the core is. The
Yeah,
core is where all that comes from. The unwound strings are just a core without windings.
yeah,
That's basically what they are.
yeah.
And I'm not a a Eric Clapton string bender, so I've always preferred. But I am a string waggler, and I found the flexible string core strings seem too sloppy for my sloppy playing, I guess.
Mm.
But
Another
I'm gonna
string
use some of
question.
this show later on audio recording, so that was a good one. Thank you, Spoon.
Another string question. This is crazy. All strings today. I find my D35 quite hard to play. Does it make sense to try the flexible core mediums before switching to lights?
absolutely, I think so. I think you're going to still get that medium sound out of them more than you're going to get from light strings. You could also try the 12.5s and see what you think.
That's a tough question, isn't it? Should I go down a gauge or play with the action, or should I try different strings that are more flexible? That's a tough one. What do you think,
if you're asking
Maury?
me, I would look at the action and see if the setup
Yeah.
is where it should be. If you can't improve it with a setup, I'd go to strings next. But you might be surprised if your guitar is just not really dialed in as much as it can be. If you get it set up properly, you might find that those strings aren't hard to play. But it's kind of a tough question long distance.
Yeah, I'm the same. I would start by looking at the height of the saddle and the action and everything, and see if you can improve it there.
Yeah, if you're by
First.
hard, if by hard you mean just making basic chords is painful,
Mm.
and hard to do, that's different than hard because you are doing a lot of string bending and stuff like that, and it's hurts to do that, or it takes too much effort.
And also with mediums, they do have a thick sound, but they are harder to play for sure. So most of my I sometimes put mediums on just to experience them and to improve my strength in my hand, but I always go back to light. Always goes back to lights all the time.
For about 25 years, I used a mix set.
Mm.
Martin Marquis, I would buy medium and light, and I would put mediums on the two E strings and the B string because those are the ones you tune down for dadgut. And Lawrence's signature set are exactly those gauges, but I got lazy again, and as I got older, and I'll just play lights now. But mediums on a short scale guitar can also help a lot. If you have a short scale guitar and you feel like it buzzes too easily, or you find that the extra tension in the extra or the lack of tension in the short scale is forcing you to have to pay attention and play, really carefully, then mediums might be something to try.
That's another good point. There are mixed sets of strings as well, and yeah, this is such a personal thing, isn't it? There's so many different kinds of gauges and strings and mixes of
Yeah,
strings and
several
materials.
brands have more than one medium, and
Yeah.
and one of them is usually that sort of dadgad idea, and Newtone and GHS and the different makers do that. Martin's never done it until Lawrence got his deal with them, and I had been after them for years back when Bruce was in charge of all that stuff, and then who came after him? Um, uh, um,
Bruce Mariano.
Bruce Mariano, yeah. But then whoever took over after that, I used to bug them all the time. Why don't you guys do the mix set? You're making the strings. You just have to put them just package them differently, and they would never do it. So,
Yeah, I don't think they think like that. They're like,
no.
we make them and they go in those packs and it's all figured out.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like me. Can't you just take a standard series and make me a colorway in the factory? Just cut that bit
Well, they
away.
did make bluegrass strings for a long time. I don't know if they still make them, the bluegrass gauges. They had a red, white, and blue, like an American flag package, and those
Oh
were kind of
yeah.
the opposite, where you had lighter bass
Mm.
strings and heavier, or maybe it's the other way around. You had lighter treble strings and heavier bass strings, or something like that.
That's what it was. Yeah, I don't think they make them anymore. But welcome back to Ask Me Any String. What's the next question?
Let's see if it's another string question.
I thought the thing just popped up and said, "Don't miss future videos." I thought it was going to say, "Don't ask about strings."
Spoon or Maury? What is the difference between... Is this a joke? What's the difference between Martin's modern forward shifted scallop X bracing and the golden era bracing?
Finally.
And what strings pair the best?
Spoon,
Let's
can
hear
I
Maury's
answer this
take on it, and then I'll
take a
correct
guess
him.
and see if I'm right? I think I know this, but I know Spoon knows, so let me try. And if I'm wrong, Spoon can correct me on
Okay.
camera. And I'll just give Spoon a big fist bump. I think the golden era bracing means it's even a little bit more, what's the word a little bit more, it's less tense, like it's shaved even skinnier, and the bracing gets tucked under the kerfing.
Almost. Almost. Maury just confused them with authentic bracing when he said the tucked bracing. Only the authentic series gets the tucked bracing. The Golden Era series were originally made for the Golden Era. I mean, the Golden Era bracing was on the Golden Era series of guitars. That's why they got the name. And that was when Martin brought back Adirondack spruce guitars for the first time. So they were like the vintage series, but they had Adirondack spruce. And for a while, they had Brazilian rosewood on the 28s and 45s. And Adirondack has much greater cross-grain stiffness than Sitka. So for people who were not used to Adirondack, you felt like you were walking into a door because it just didn't vibrate and give you the response that you're used to getting from Sitka or even softer woods like Engelmann and European spruce. So they wanted to lighten up the bracing. Ironically, they give them Adirondack bracing, which is also stiffer, but it is Maury's correct is in that they are carved to a greater extent. So you have your standard scallop bracing. Golden Era style bracing has much deeper slopes carved out of it. The pinnacles are much tighter and pointier, and actually most people don't know this. When you look at a brace from the side, if you could, cross section of the brace, a modern brace is basically rectangular until they cut it, and then they'll scallop it. The Golden Era bracing is that way, but they also shaved the sides off a little bit, so they're a little skinnier at the top. So it's not exactly parabolic bracing. You'll read that sometimes, which is kind of bullet shaped. It's not exactly parabolic bracing, but they're coming down the sides, so they're shaping the sides. They're also the scallopers go much closer to the bottom, so they're lightening up the bracing to make it more flexible, to make it more like vintage guitars. That's what they're aiming for. This was before they came out with the D18 Authentic in 2006, I think. Authentic bracing is carved. The modern Authentic series bracing is carved to look like the bracing on that one guitar. So they literally go in and they photograph it and they x-ray it, they CAT scan it, and they make sure the bracing is in the exact same position, and then they try to make the shape of the bridge plate and the bracing look as much like that as they can, and then they standardize it, but that's where it comes from. And the authentic bracing is carved all the way from where it's glued to the soundboard all the way up, and you can see little chisel marks in it. They carve it all the way down and shape it all the way down, and that stuff is even more has even more wood taken out, and the pinnacles are even tighter and sharper. And then the tips of the bracing are tucked into the kerfing around the side, and the bridge plates tucked under the X brace, and the tone bars are tucked into the X brace and stuff to transfer the energy. So that's really what you're talking about. For me, the difference is when you played the Marquis were the GEs with Sitka spruce and Indian rosewood. When you played a D28, OM28V, and a OM28 Marquis from the same year, and if somebody ordered a custom GE bracing on a 28, the difference to me was you could always play that vintage series guitar like Maury has, and like you get with the modern OM28. I could always play them a lot harder before it started to overdrive and before you started getting distortion in it, because the slightly heavier bracing really allows you to do that. And the Lawrence Juber signature model is the same thing compared to the Marquis. The Marquis would overdrive compared to the Jubers because they had lighter bracing. And so GE bracing will give you greater response at less power. But the trade-off is you're going to have a lower attack ceiling if you play really hard, you have a lower attack ceiling. And GE bracing will give you beautiful tone with light finger picking, and you'll get much more out of light finger picking than you get from standard bracing. But I play pretty heavily, so I ask for standard scalloping on everything that I get.
So saying that, Spoon, is it fair to say that the GE bracing is going to sound a little bit better without putting more effort into things? But if you do put a lot of effort into there, then you're going to hit a ceiling.
You're going to get you get a more open tone with a bigger sort of basement that you get that sounds more vintagey. You're going to get more pretty overtones, and your fundamental notes are going to come out and sing with lighter, nuanced playing. And then if you had to, and then if when you go and you pick up the one with the standard bracing from the standard series, you're going to just notice you just have to play just a little harder to get that volume out of it. So if you're looking for responsiveness, GE bracing is the way to go. If you're looking for power, a good marriage of responsiveness and power, I would always say go with standard. That's what I go for.
That's the question I was about to ask. If the GE bracing is so good, why did they move away from it? And you just
They didn't move away from it. They brought it back.
Mm.
So you only had the standard scalloping on the HD28s and all that. They brought it back specifically for Adirondack spruce because those tops were stiffer. I always say a brand new Adirondack top sounds like somebody skipping stones across the lake, and that your playing isn't reaching in and getting that response that you're used to getting, and it takes time for that to break in. So on the original GEs, they made that lighter, more vintagey bracing because people were not going to buy a D18 GE next to a D828, a D28V when it felt like you had to play that as hard as you possibly could to get sound out of this thing. So they lightened up the bracing. Right. Later on, they started putting them on. People would order them custom with Sitka bracing, and with Sitka bracing in GE, that's what I'm talking about. It's even much more apparent because the Sitka bracing is already more responsive, and the Sitka top is already more responsive. So you put GE with it, and you're going to get a very responsive guitar for nuanced playing. But if you're used to playing with power chords all the time, you might be surprised at how the attack ceiling's lower, and you start to get into a distorted sound, just like you get with an amplifier when you're overdriving an amp.
What is an ECB 00042?
ECB, Eric Clapton, Brazilian, 00042 was the original Eric Clapton signature model that came out for MTV Unplugged. So limited edition.
So Lee says,
collectible.
Would you buy that, or would you get a custom 000 instead?
I'd get a custom because I like Adirondack, and those are Sitka tops. The Sitka tops with 5/16 inch standard scallop bracing, so you have to put some weight in, you have to put some muscle into them to play them. You see how hard he plays, when he's playing his leads and stuff. So he doesn't care about that stuff. But for me, yeah, they have the same bracing and top as the normal Eric Clapton model. If you're familiar with the normal Eric Clapton model and you want to spend the money for the bling, frankly, I would say find yourself that later limited edition Clapton with the Madagascar rosewood and the special diamonds with the blue Powell in the center and the outlines on the diamonds and that stuff. Those are insanely gorgeous guitars. And I don't remember if the tops are Sitka or not. The tops might be European, but they're probably Sitka. But those are gorgeous, and they made 28s as well. So you might want to find one of those.
Jasper says, Spoon, you've had the opportunity to play many different Martin models. If you could pick 5 to keep out of all the ones you've played, what would they be?
So I'm only going to talk about ones that are made now or were made recently and people can actually afford, because the answer would be I would take the OM45 Deluxe that used to belong to Roy Rogers, because that was the Stradivarius for me. I liked it even better than the one at the museum, and the one at the museum with the insanely perfect neck is also an outrageously great guitar. Well, I'm very happy with my Spoon Phillips custom model. They didn't make very many of them, but they're probably out there. So if you offered somebody...
How many were made?
I don't remember, but Maury sold the last one just recently, didn't he?
Counting yours, I think 10.
So it's nice that people got that many orders. But I really like that a lot. Lawrence Juber Brazilian. I've had 2 of those, but those big V-necks. they hurt my hand too much, but those just sound spectacular. Um, I really liked the George Martin, the M George Martin 3-piece back mahogany, figured mahogany with a European top, really gorgeous sounding. Um, and Woody Mann's, I'm talking signature models, Woody Mann's signature model, an MC with a large sound hole, and I'm getting that maybe mixed up with the district sales manager model, which is a Koa MC with a cutaway. That was fabulous too. Let's see.
Five
terms
is,
of regular,
5 is a lot, I think.
yeah, 5's a lot. Regular models, the HD28, always a great model, and OM28, great model. I miss my OM28V. Would I, if I could just get anything? Yeah, I'd like to have a D45. I played a D45 belonging to a fella here in New York City who's an airline pilot. That's an early one from the Black Pickguard, and after all these years, it's like a jewel box. It's just magnificent sounding instrument. So, yeah, I'd probably get one of those. How about an OM45 Golden Era? I'd get one of those too.
That's 6 then.
All right.
I wish I'd known you a few years ago when I saw that George Martin model that was on the used market. I would have asked you about that. Oh well. Let's just put it down to 1. You can only have 1 Martin from now the rest of time. What would you have, Maury? He's going to be boring and to say his OM28 worn.
The one that his wife bought him.
Yeah, can I call her? Well, it's going to be redundant, but probably an OM28 authentic. I think I remember playing that at Martin, and Tim Teal just watching me like a father must look when he's seeing a kid open something, a big gift, and he's just watching my expression, and it's just getting happier and happier and happier. And I said, off the record, are you guys proud of this thing or what? And he just couldn't stop laughing at how fortunate they felt that they designed that and it came out as good as it did. And the one we were listening to and playing was just blowing everybody away. So I think it might be a little bit shallow, but thinking that that's the best one and seeing somebody like that reinforce your opinion of it, I'd say the OM28 authentic.
Yeah, I remember Maury playing stands. A fella from Florida would come up to Martin Fest and bought one, and then he brought it back the next year because it was so popular. And he wanted me to hear it after a year because they say, with torrefaction, that wood's not going to age. It's not going to season. So it's not like it's going to keep breaking in. But what the point that people miss by that is all the glue is breaking in, all the joinings, all the joinage, all the bracing, all that stuff is still being rattled around, and you're still getting, even if the tops, all the resins in the top have all crystallized already. And it's definitely, it was noticeably better the next year. So
that's a good point. It's not just the wood, is it? It's everything. It's the whole thing. I got a question about strings. Are we allowed to ask that?
Wait, Aaron, you didn't give us your pick.
You see, mine's difficult because I just said 1 guitar for the rest of the time, but I need a stage guitar.
He's not going to hold himself to his own.
But I need a pickup. If I could only have 1 guitar, I kind of need a colorway. I definitely need a pickup, and I'm not really into like temporary pickups like the Soundhole pickup. So I'm looking at this guitar behind me, something like that, GPC 28 colorway Anthem, and then if I wasn't interested in if you said I can have one without a pickup, yeah, probably that is that a D45, Maury?
It is, yes.
Wow, probably a D45, D42, HD28. My just, as everyone knows, my just standard answer is always OM28, HD28 for anyone that's looking for a guitar. Big guitar, HD28. Small guitar, OM28 standard series. I often get told off for having that kind of, standard, pardon the pun, standard opinion, but they're just great. They are standards, literally standards.
You have to be careful. Well, I have to be careful what I say because you forget that when you're on the internet. No, that's good. I like that. Um, but I years ago on a guitar forum, pre UMGF, I said, maybe early UMGF, I said when people brought this discussion up, I said, well, you really need four because you need a rosewood dreadnought and you need a mahogany dreadnought, and then you need a rosewood OM, and then you need a mahogany
Yeah.
OM, and then you probably need a Koa 12 fret Koa triple auto double knot. And sure enough, if a fella didn't go out and buy that, so fella, I meet this guy at Martin Fest, and he had a beautiful,
Oh wow.
he took it down. He had the first Steve Miller signature model, which was a Koa 12 fret double O, and with a beautiful Koa top. And he had himself a D18 of some sort, a D28 of some sort, an OM28 of some sort, and an OM18 of some sort.
But what I've learned is from doing gigs again, I had to step back and think, what am I actually going to use for my gigs? And I think that's a really good thing. Like that was kind of a joke. Like, okay, one guitar. But sometimes it's good to think about that stuff. What do I actually need? And if I'm doing a gig, what guitar? So that's why I said I need a guitar with a pickup. I can't not have a pickup in there because that's what I do, right? It's my job. And then a cutaway is really practical as well on stage. A smaller body that won't feed back as much is really important on stage. So that's what I need. I mean, I could say I want a D45, no pickup, pure acoustic sound, or I love the Authentics, so one of those. But that wouldn't be useful to me for what I actually do. That really, like, now I'm playing gigs again. That made me think. Like, I changed the bag that I take to my gig, the pedal that I take, everything. But the guitar, I had to really think because I'm taking the subway. It's actually blown away last week because I had to take the subway into the city, Spoon. So I took, this is my rig, the Bose S1 Pro, and yes, I do like the JBL Compact, but the Bose S1 Pro is 2 pounds lighter and it's smaller. It's a smaller speaker. So I had that in one hand. I have a lightweight mic stand that goes in a bag over my shoulder. So I wear that across my back with my guitar in a soft gig bag on my back. And then my right hand free for my bag, which has got all my cables and my smaller TC Helicon pedal in it. So it's not easy to carry that stuff. It's about 18 pounds in one hand, 18 pounds in the other hand, the guitar and the mic stand on my back. But it sounded awesome, and the fact that it blows my mind. I can do a gig with that rig on taking the subway is really, really cool. And that is what I need to actually play my shows. That rig is exactly what I need, and I think that was really good to have to think about that stuff. I was going to make a video on it actually. Like now there's gigs again. What am I actually going to take to the gigs? What do I need to use at my gigs? So.
Well, I had to think in those terms. I have to have a cutaway if I'm going to be performing some of the stuff if I'm going to be performing my fingerstyle stuff, I have to have a cutaway and. So my guitar was designed to be there if I had to get rid of all my guitars, and I've sold a lot of guitars over the years.
Okay.
There's a lot of people who don't, a lot of people who can only have one guitar for a great number of reasons. So I know it's fun to think about, but what you're talking about is much more practical. And even if somebody's just an open mic guy, even if somebody's just playing on the sofa, they simply cannot justify having more than one guitar. And I'm a big believer in you should always get the best guitar you could afford, but you should also assume, like most people do, you are going to end up spending a little more than you wanted to, if not a lot more, but it's going to be worth it. And that pinch you're going to get over that pinch as that Martin Standard Series Martin or whatever it is starts to break in, and you guys start to get to know each other, and you play that and cherish that forever after. But I certainly envy people having to figure out what that one guitar is, and there's nothing wrong with buying used if in that journey, because then you can probably make your money back before you really. Unfortunately, I'm the kind of person who bought that one because I couldn't afford that one. Then I ended up buying that one anyway. So I've done that with lots of things, not just guitars, and with TV sets or whatever, or cameras. And I ended up buying the one that I wanted in the first place and should have just forked out the money for it. But
buy cheap, buy twice.
people write me about, approaching Maury about this and that, and it's a bad time to try to buy a guitar because there aren't that many out there. And
Mm.
if there's something at Maury's that you're thinking about buying, you should buy it because
Yeah.
it's not going to be there very long, and who knows how long until he's going to get another one. So,
Yeah, and it
I
sounds
know.
cute to say, and I'm smiling, but it's back of my mind. The stuff we're selling now to replenish this stuff, Lori's putting orders in every other week, and the last 3 times she placed an order, what is it, September now? Some of our August orders are coming back with ETAs of 2023. So we're secretly hoping Martin's doing that backloaded,
Right.
and hoping that once everything starts to settle down, 16 months away is going to turn into 12 months, might even turn into 10. Maybe some dealers can't deal with that, and in 6 months, some cancellations means things pull up a little bit further. But yeah, gone are the days, at least temporarily, of us having 200 guitars here and access to anything else. We took for granted the fact we had so many guitars here. It almost never happened that somebody wanted something we don't have, and when that did happen, if they asked us on a Wednesday, I could get it by Friday. That's a much more enjoyable buying experience. But yeah, to circle back to your problem about the subway and which guitars to bring, I have a van,
Yeah.
so I don't have those problems. But I can really
No, that changes.
empathize with you
Of
guys.
course,
that have
that,
to,
of course that
decide how
changes. Yeah.
but it's tough.
Like, no, I drive the gigs too. If I drive the gigs, I'll take the full rig because then that's a different story. But if you've got to walk half a mile to the subway and then go up and down the stairs, and I'm just using that as an extreme example, and I'm really impressed that rig could. I didn't think it was going to sound as good as it did. It really blew my mind. That little Bose S1 Pro, I did a large kind of hotel bar and like this high ceiling, and it really filled the room.
Wow.
I'm not into, like, a lot of people on forums talk about they want everything wireless and the lightest they can get and the most convenience they can get. I do think just by default you sacrifice some tone. If I can take a full PA and a mix and everything, I will if I'm driving. But it just made me realize there is gear. We're very lucky now. There is gear available that you can take on a subway and still gives you a really professional sound. I think that's really cool.
Well, I spend, when I do perform, I'm usually performing in places that already have, the PA and all that stuff, and so I basically just need what pedal I'm going to have in my cables. But like when I had to do the thing for Dick Boak, I have a very early trans audio amp that I brought.
They made amps. I didn't know that.
Yeah, am I thinking of the right thing? It's an English company that was eventually bought by
Trace Elliott?
Fender.
Trace
Elliott. I'm sorry, Trace Elliott. Yeah, I have an old Trace Elliott amp, and I knew when I was saying it, that's not the right word. What is it? Yeah, Trace Elliott. And those things are heavy.
Yeah.
Even the little ones are heavy. But I took that on the subway. But usually I would just take a cab if I have to do that kind of stuff.
But what I found is, I mean, we're talking about different venues, right? But a lot of venues I play sometimes say they have equipment and then they don't, or they have two musicians, someone else is using it. So I know I want to give them a shout out because that thing really impressed me. But then that's a whole other conversation because then you'll do some. I did a gig recently, Maury, which was like a camp for kids for camping out outside this country club. And they kept running over this was a PA speaker with cables running, and they kept running back. I didn't know there'd be kids running across this where I had set up. And I spent the whole hour and a half just waiting for a kid to trip over and pull the PA speaker. So something like that, a completely wireless system would have been great. So that's a whole other thing. But the point of that speech really was just, it's good to have gear that you actually need for an actual purpose. I mean, of course, sometimes we have extra stuff, and of course, I still think it's good to have like a recording guitar and a stage guitar, but that's a good thing to ask yourself sometimes. Like, what am I actually using this stuff for? It's a good question to ask yourself.
Sure.
My idea of a wireless system is playing my Dreadnought that doesn't have a pickup and using the SM57 in the venue.
Yeah, but again, I'll say I've been using like this Sennheiser thing. It's been very reliable. The technology now with certain companies is getting really good. Really improving. Okay, I don't want that. Is that marked down now? Hey, I'll take that one. What What are your thoughts on changing factory strings, medium to light gauge, on the custom? Oh, this is Steve's custom we're talking about now. What would you recommend? I'd appreciate all your opinions. My opinion is I usually play it for a little while and I take them off and put lights on because I always go to lights. What do you think, Spoon?
When I go to medium on my Dreadnought, I'm like, wow, this sounds fantastic. But I play lights for the same reason, for comfort and playability. So try them. You'll probably like them. In terms of what you would recommend, I play 80/20s. Basically, I play 80/20s, and I play. I prefer the silked ones. I still think they do sound a little different, and even though it's the exact same string, and the only difference is the silk where it is digging into the bridge plate. I have phosphor bronze laying around. That'll happen. Sometimes that's all there is, and I'll grab those. But if I'm going to, I usually keep those for my mahogany guitar.
Yeah, Steve, thank you again for your business. If you're asking which exact strings do we recommend, I would try the authentic phosphor bronze light MA540Ts. They've worked for me, but again, I'm playing an OM, so it's been a while since we've put light strings on a Dreadnought for somebody by request, so I don't know if I could say that I've got a lot of recent experience, but I would try the MA540Ts.
I like the authentic acoustic, and the ones with pickups do ship with those, don't they? So like when I got my HDC, that came with those anyway. So, but no, I again, the strings thing is so personal. Like some people have to use 13s, right? And some people can't stand it. They want to use 12s on there. Our next question is interesting. It's from Jim, and I'm going to play you a quick video. I just messed up my screen. Hang on. This ties in nicely with something I was going to show you. What do you think on the new generation line with player sound port, walnut back and sides, dovetail neck with hide glue, and a new low price point? Now, I'm going to show you one of these first of all on a video from our friend Spoon, and they are kind of more minimal in their construction, which is how they've kept the price down, I think. But I want your opinion on the sound port, because we've spoke about these before, and Taylor are now putting one in their guitars, actually down in the, what do you call it? It's not on the top. It's at the other side, like facing the player. I can't think what you describe it. This one is on the top, the lower back. Yeah, this one is in the regular place, but it's quite a big. It's a big size. And we have looked at one that was a custom model before. But let's just take a couple of minutes. I want to show this. It's good timing. This is our friend and yours, Philip Watson. Hang on, I'm going to jump over to the screen. We don't need to see us. Hang on. There we go.
Show again? Yeah.
Hey, Aaron and Mari. I know this is our program. Your program is all about Martin guitars and the specs and the woods and everything about Martin. Well, leave it to me to throw a turd in the punch bowl. This is the Gibson new Generation series. This is a G Rider. This is based on the Gibson standard songwriter, a Dreadnought with a Venetian cutaway. It's a spruce top with walnut back and sides. I hope the lighting's good that you can see the back side of this guitar. It's walnut. And what really makes this a new generation guitar is that Gibson has added this, what they call a player port. And Aaron, this serves two purposes, buddy. One, of course, when the player is playing the guitar, you can get the sound of the guitar that the audience gets out of the sound hole coming up to him. And also, for us, the sound hole sniffers, you can smell the guitar through here. So not only you're getting the sound of the guitar, but the aroma of that guitar is coming up while you're playing it right here. Anyway, this is a really nice little new generation. It's called Generation Series.
All right, I'm going to put the link to that video in the chat if you want to watch the whole thing, because he does go on to use that port to sniff the guitar, which is clearly why they added it to the guitar itself. I got computer problems here. I'll put that link in. No, I text Maury because I said, Maury, what do you think of this? Look, Taylor are doing it. Gibson are doing it. Do you think Martin will do it, Spoon?
They did do it when they did a joint venture with a Pennsylvania luthier, whose name I can't remember right now. But
Oh, Matt Ardinger?
yeah, Ardinger. Thank you. I like the idea. I've always enjoyed them when I've played them in guitars, and I'm looking very forward to trying out the new Gibsons. I have always thought Walnut would be an ideal choice for, Taylor came out with their maple guitars that they, painted brown to look like mahogany, and because people wanted, they knew people wanted wanted mahogany, but maple is renewable and American and all that, so they're making these maple guitars. I always thought Walnut would have been a great choice, and now Gibson's doing exactly that. The songwriter guitars, as far as I'm concerned, were Gibson's attempt to compete directly against Taylor and to come up with something that would appeal to that kind of the same younger singer-songwriters that Taylor's appealed to, and I think they did a good job with that. The songwriters that I've heard are all fine guitars, so I think this was a really clever idea, and I'm looking forward to trying them. So. Should Martin do it? Why not? I would love to see Martin come out with something with sound hole ports in it and see. For me, it just allows you to hear, like they say, I can hear the guitar better when I'm sitting there playing. It's a monitor for the player, as far as I'm concerned, and it works.
Yeah, I was thinking this because I was playing my amp this morning and I wasn't getting much treble, and I thought, well, the amp is pointed at my feet, right? And if we mic an amp and use in-ears, we hear that mic in front of the speaker. And it's the same with an acoustic guitar. We've said this before, Maury. When we're playing the acoustic guitar, we're not hearing what the mic would hear or what you would hear sitting in front of me, right? We're hearing it from the top. So it can totally make sense to put that sound port in there. And they've used a really big one too, a big sound port.
Yeah, I'm not sure you're really hearing exactly what you hear as an audience member, but
I'm sure it's
hearing,
different.
but you can hear better.
Yeah.
And this was mentioned in with Daisy's talk. Somebody mentioned being able to close the sound port. There are boutique makers that do that actually have a little slide, a wooden slide to open or close the sound port to the whatever degree you want. Yeah, it's interesting. I did not know that Taylors were putting the Taylor's sound port is not in the bass shoulder.
Let me show you. Hang on, I've just got the website up. Check this out. You see that? I see Maury.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah. Interesting, isn't it?
I'd be really curious to see what that actually does for the player. Since it's still pointing away from the player.
I know.
Maybe it's pointing. Maybe you're getting reflection off the ground. I don't know.
Here's the Gibson. Look how big that is. That's a big sound port there. Because I had one. I told you I had one put in a Martin couple of years ago for a pickup system, and it was about half the size of that, and I could tell a difference because I would cover it up and listen. So the Real Ting has that guitar in England now. He played on here a few weeks ago, and they've opted for an even bigger sound port, and I really like them. I really like the way you can look inside the guitar. It's really cool. You can look right. You can see right inside through the guitar. Yeah. People joke if you drop a pick in there, it's easy to get the pick out. But I think, once again, the reason Martin probably wouldn't do it is because it's just not traditional, is it? It's not, it makes it look way too modern. I thought they were going to do it on the SC13E. In fact, it looked like it had one. When I first saw the pictures of that guitar, I thought, is that a sound port? But it wasn't.
Yeah, I would not have been surprised if they had even thought about it, but I'm not sure with that body if it would have worked very well, but because it's the way it's shaped and stuff. But yeah, fascinating. I'm really curious to hear this Taylor's now and see the point of that sound hole.
I want to hear the Gibson, and I want to order a custom backpacker with sound port. Okay.
Boy, you really go after those backpackers. I got to tell you.
No, only because Maury tore into him a few weeks ago, and then Phil Watson started this whole thing with me when he bought one. I mean, he still bought one. So,
But yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people. We gave them a travel instrument to be able to play when they're like climbing mountains in Indonesia and stuff. It's been to Mount Everest. It's been to Antarctica. They've been around. They may have a backpacker even went on the space shuttle, I think. But
I'll go get one if you want me to.
No.
But yes, they feel a little. The balance of them is a little funky, but that was before people were coming out with the Taylor Mini and the Little Martin and all that stuff. So I'm surprised they still make them, but apparently people still buy them. So.
Well, I guess the Dread Junior is kind of the new backpacker, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Am I correct that the Martin 000 MMV acoustic guitar was made for Guitar Center? What are the specs?
MMV, the old M used to stand for the Road Series. So I'm not sure what the MMV is. I'd have to look it up. But they've done a bunch of, they did a bunch of guitar runs for Guitar Center. And they used to, what actually would happen is Guitar Center would just order customs. And that's one of the reasons Martin went away from allowing people to say, this is a custom 00028, because it would be a 00028 with veneer and a M&T neck joint. And, so it was not, and they had some marketing practices that would basically, as a friend of mine used to say, would tart up Road Series models or even X Series models, and then try to sell them to the unassuming customer as a really great custom Martin that's just like this D28 or whatever. But then originally that's why they stopped for a long time. You couldn't order custom 15 series because dealers were doing that. They were basically taking a D15, putting a lowest grade spruce top on it, and then selling it for
Wow.
a higher price than it was really warranted.
Because it said custom. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But then they got,
to answer your
that
question,
went away, and now you can order customized 15s, but they pay a lot more attention now, I think, with the real custom shop of who's ordering
and
what.
that was a model specifically for Guitar Center in the question.
MMV. What does MMV mean then? V-neck.
I
Mahogany.
never found out.
MMV. Question. I had a 00028 Eric Clapton, which was my all-time favorite, but unfortunately life made me sell it. That's not a question, that's a tragedy. Sorry. Oh dear. They are great guitars, aren't they? And the fact they still make them now is very impressive.
Says a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
It's one of their most popular models.
What time does the post office close? I think 6 o'clock, so we have to finish by 6. So I've got to go and send Spoon a card. Thank you card. Pink Floydish. Want another 000 Martin, but I'm wondering how you would compare the 00013E to the 16E. Tried the 13, which absolutely loved, but I'm interested too in the 16.
Well, that's fascinating. So if you really, the Road Series, best bang for the buck that Martin offers. I think with the 16 series, you're getting all solid wood. The Road Series is a solid wood with a veneer. If I'm thinking of the 13s, yes, or the ones with the Zirconi or the Koa, yes. Is that right, Maury? Does that sound right? Or do they make a 13 with?
Yeah, that's the newest version of that. But you're getting solid wood in both series, but you're going to get made in Nazareth in the 16s, made in Mexico in the Road Series. And I don't want to piggyback off your comment before you're done your comment, but whenever somebody starts a question like that, I like to let them talk a little bit longer and say, go back to what you started with. You absolutely loved the 13. Don't rule out the 16, but don't. This almost sounds like a question that implies, if I can afford a 16, should I jump up from the 13E? No. If you love the 13, the 16 is going to be different, made somewhere else, and maybe not as good.
I agree. If you find a guitar that you really like, then just buy that guitar. I'll give you that advice.
Well, the 13 is going to give you the onboard tuner, I think. Yes, they have the MMX pickup system in them, and the 16s don't have the tuner. Is that right?
The 16s will probably get the VT enhanced, but the 13 you'll get the MXT.
Yeah, and I love that onboard tuner. I think that's a really cool feature. And you have a very cool name, by the way.
I can't stop looking at the avatar picture. Mark Johnson, question for Maury. I want a new saddle for my Modern Deluxe D18 2021. Very nice. Can you pre-sand it to a degree for me before you ship it? I want to lower action, no luthier here.
We can work something out. If you can measure it for me, we'd have to get an exact measurement of which height you want to arrive at. It's dependent on how busy we are when we get those requests. That's on a case-by-case basis, but sure, we could do something like that for you.
I love them. I love the fact that the Martin saddles are all pre-shaped and good to go, and at the very worst you might have to just get some sandpaper and just file them down a little bit. I've bought some saddles in the past that have to be sanded down a lot, but yeah, I'm always done that for me. If he just takes a little bit off, or you can either, I guess someone could send you a saddle, or they could send you the measurements, or you could just take a little bit off and then they could buy some sandpaper and just finish it themselves, make sure it's flat, right?
Sure.
I tell you what, I can do that. So I can't get this light to stay on the desk, but I can actually sand a saddle pretty well. So it's not too hard to do.
They can send men to the moon, but you can't get Aaron's light to work.
I'm not good at DIY. I use light. Oh no, hang on. Last few questions here. Everyone's chatting. What's the loudest Martin you've ever played? For me,
There was something I played at Maury's that was certainly one of the loudest Martins I've ever played. I'm trying to remember what it was now.
For me, it's an HD28 Addy top. I think.
Yeah, this was some limited edition, but boy, was it! Oh, I know what it is. It's the CSN model, the Crushed Nose Nash model. Those things are gigantic. They just sound gigantic. Boy, you just play them snot out of them, and they'll just say, "Is that all you got, Sonny?" They're really built to be played hard and strummed hard. Really, really
Spoon,
great.
Our friend Jim Adams from UMGF has one of them, and he loves it. Yeah. I would say
it's the scourge of song circles everywhere because it's so much louder than everybody else's guitar.
Oh, we have some pretty good memories of Jim, but I would say it's a tie game between the Martin D1. Remember that one? Not the
12 fret mahogany D1. Yeah, those are also
one and the D18 authentic 1939 aged. I think, and I've played that.
Oh well, then we have to bring in the D18 authentic 1931, the 12 fret. That's also a massive, giant sounding guitar. Those are all really big, loud guitars.
Let me add a question to that. Is louder better?
Yes, asterisk.
Ask Metallica.
No, in regards to a Martin acoustic guitar, is if you had a choice between two and one was clearly louder, is that the way to go? Is that a better thing?
No, but it sure can be impressive if it's holding its tone. If it's really holding its tone, and everybody loves that sense of power sometimes, but no, it's not what I listen. It's not what I go for mainly.
I think it is better, and Spoon makes a good point. As long as you're not giving up the tonal balance that you want to have, if you find two guitars and they both have the EQ that you like, and of course we're gonna think obviously that you like the way they play. I think the louder one is better because in my mind you don't have to work as hard to get something out of it, and that's a really beautiful feeling to be able to be a little bit lazy in what you're doing, and it's just if you have to work for it, it's not as fun. And I know that's a real short answer, but if I went and compared two similar guitars in 5 different times, I think I would always really feel like the one that's louder is playing itself a little bit more, and that's where I come from.
And that circles us back to GE bracing. If people are thinking about calling more item to a custom order, you're going to get there with less effort with Golden Era bracing.
I'm about less effort is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it makes sense. You don't have to fight the guitar, a bit like the strings, right? You don't have to fight it to get the sound you want. But that's just one factor, isn't it? But yeah, the volume is always impressive, isn't it? When you strum that open E and it just rings out and fills the room, it's
or
always
you're sitting in front of somebody and they pick up the loud guitar and you're like, oh my God, that's amazing.
And if not, just make a sample.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 12 fret D1 with a sound port, Spoon.
Oh wow. I mean, That's my question. Really
Why?
was: can there be too much of a good thing? That's the thing. Could you order a custom, stick a sample in it, and be like, this is too much?
No.
Maury couldn't.
Give me.
Old Metal Dude, what do you guys think of the Grand J 16 12 string? I haven't played one. What do you think, Spoon?
Orchestral. They're more impressed. I was much more impressed with it than I thought I was going to be, because it's the modern 16 with the shallower body, and they're really good and really fun. The modern Martin 12 strings, they've got the strings right, so you can finger pick them. The old 12 strings, the D1220s and stuff, it was basically like a wall of mesh, and it was impossible for me to finger pick those things. But I'm much better at finger picking the modern Martin 12 strings.
Interesting piece of trivia here that Aaron would. I'm just gonna tee this up for him and let him go and have fun. That's the genesis of one of Aaron's favorite sound drops. I did a video on that, and I really do think it's an amazing instrument, because I opened the video by saying, is this the easiest 12 string to play? And it is. And I've heard that now about 11 or 12 times in 3 months. But that's what I remember about it. And I got the attention of my sales rep, and he's like, did you really mean that when you said that? It plays so much easier to me than the other 12 strings I played in recent memory. And Craig Thatcher did a really great video for that from the Martin Museum back in January. And I really appreciated it on a recording. I got to play it myself here. When I did my video, it doesn't lack the bass that some people might think it's going to because of its shallow depth. So the fact that you're not giving up necessary low end and it's so easy to play, that's I was being serious when I said that.
Having the wider top, that's what the M gives you. The M is the quadruple knot wider top, gives you a bigger bottom E string than something in the OM size, and it works out really well in that instrument.
I don't like those shallow body dreads and things. I don't. That's not really for me. But I understand some people like the comfort of them. Like, again, I'm 6'5", so I understand that. But I like the full size ones. No, Maury, when I saw that, I just laughed to myself, because I thought, oh, Maury's been watching those Live Streamer 101 YouTube videos again. Like, start with a catchy intro hook. Is this the best 12 string? And then I thought, maybe I should do that in my videos so they get more views.
I haven't done it since, so maybe you shouldn't.
I'm going to do, when I review the trance amulet, I'm going to say, is this the best soundboard transducer pickup?
Well, you'd be right, because that is. I played a gig Saturday with Tim, and we had 2 Trance Audio Amulet M's and the Bose L1 Pro 32 outside, and it was glorious. It did really, really good. I have gone back to microphone and undersaddle. I'm using the Anthem and the Australian guitars again. But I did just review the Dazzo, and I'm going to review the Trance, and I'm going to make a video comparing the K&K, the Dazzo, and the Trance as well. Because I know, for people that want those style of pickups, they are excellent. But I just love that attack of an undersaddle and a microphone at the moment.
I have a quick comment, because I see something in the chat I want to comment on. So people know this. The modern deluxe guitars no longer have titanium alloy truss rods, and they haven't for a while. I have no idea when the change happened. They still have a smaller than normal truss rod, so they couldn't due to the world crisis, they couldn't source the materials any longer. I don't know when the change happened, but so the lightweightness of the guitar was not just based on the titanium.
Maury, did anyone call you up at that time and say, have you got a modern deluxe with a titanium truss rod? Are people that?
Yeah.
They do that?
Once a month we get that question, yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah, I heard that when they changed the F1 system. I was in a Sam Ash, and the one in Manhattan, Spoon, and the guy was like, yeah, everyone's calling up asking for the old F1 Plus system. They don't want the newest. It's just, as soon as something changes, we want that one before the change, right? I'm no different. I just wondered if that happens.
It does.
And I remember they changed the size of it, which was a problem, because then you have to buy another. That's not a problem, but if you get a Modern Deluxe and you've got the truss rod tool for an HD28, you have to get the 4mm tool for the modern
Yes,
Lux.
that's correct.
Don't forget that.
That's correct.
Don't try to get the 5mm in there because you'll break it.
But also the modern deluxe neck has a lot less mass on it than than other guitars. So that's part of the overall weight of the instrument as well.
Someone said, does a triple O with medium strings sound about the same as an OM with light strings? Well, that's a good question.
No,
Wow.
it does not. The OM and the long scale and the short scale are still different. Also, well, it depends. The triple O 18 might sound more like that because it's got 1/4-inch OM bracing. All the other triple O's have 5/16 inch bracing, and it's definitely not the same. The physics involved, it's not that simple. There's other things in terms of how much kinetic energy is going into that soundboard and how it's being treated by the bridge plate and the bracing. You're still sounding like you still sound like a triple O. It still to me has a much more focus forward coming at you as all 6 horsemen of the apocalypse, where the OM still it kind of goes out that way, and the string sound kind of goes out that way in a what I call that ball of tone that you get out of an OM.
So someone said the 18 modern Lux is light, but I've got to say, like, you know, mahogany is noticeably lighter than rosewood. It's just like mahogany is really light, and if you like that, it's a good way to go for that reason alone. For me, it's almost too light. It's like a triple O 18 is just like nothing there, right? All right, I think we're going to start to wrap things up. So before we go, I'm going to say thanks to Spoon for joining us. He may be unavailable in the near future, so I'm really glad he could make it today for this session. I'm going to put your link in the chat. It's onemans.com. So I want you to go there, subscribe to his YouTube channel, buy his album, and read all his articles on Martin Guitar. And Spoon, any other news you want to let people know before we go?
That's an interesting question. I totally forgot. I've been telling everybody I'm going to be appearing on Aaron Short's show on YouTube. So no, not right now. I've been focusing on the writing stuff more than music stuff lately, and other than I am actually playing I have a playing partner these days, but that's just for fun. So no, not right now. I will certainly watch the replays of the show. It looks like my professional life is going to keep me away from these fun Mondays for a while now, and but hopefully we can work something out in the future.
Yeah, perhaps we'll do a special on a Saturday or a Sunday sometime. Just like
and if you want to do some, we can talk about that. We can even try some pre-recorded stuff. Almost podcast.
All pre-recorded. Yeah, definitely. And Maury, is this the Best Acoustic Guitar channel on YouTube? Okay, great. Thank you. And what's your schedule looking like this week?
Well, I want to take this opportunity because I'm not going to get it again. Spoon, as a journalist myself, I want to ask you the tough question. Is it true part of the reason you're not going to be available for several Mondays are you and Philip Watson going to do a program called Sound Port Sniffer?
If such an endeavor were in the works, this possible participant would have no comment.
It will never work.
Well,
it will never work.
Back to the other question. I thank you for asking. I'll be.
I like my coffee hole sniffer, frankly. Thank you.
Don't forget to get your sound hole sniffer merchandise. I'll put the link below.
Philip Watson sent me one with a sound port, but it keeps leaking, so I have to drink it this way because tomorrow the Mari's Music Podcast drops again every Tuesday. Wednesday at 4 p.m. is Virtual Tour. Thursday, instead of Martin versus Martin at 6 p.m. on Facebook, it's Martin versus Marshall because Clayton's going to be on
Marshall amplification.
No, Marshall
Flash.
Marshall unamplification. My good pal Marshall is going to fill in. It's Martin versus Marshall episode 2, and we're going to come at you 6 p.m. on Thursday on Facebook. And that's as much as I can do this week, but thank you for asking.
I have a special tomorrow. I'll just show the flyer quickly. This is a guy that I met at NAMM, the last NAMM that I was able to go to. Oh, I just covered everyone up. Hope I can get rid of that again. So this is Richard Morgan. He worked for Hughes & Kettner. Remember I reviewed the Hughes & Kettner acoustic amp? That was all thanks to him. And he's now working with Blue Guitar. That's tomorrow, 1 p.m. EST, 1 o'clock. And he's now working with Blue Guitar, which is Thomas Blue. They make the Blue Guitar Amp 1. And so, yeah, I said to him, you come on my show, I'll interview you to learn about your life in music and the companies you've worked for. And then in a few weeks' time, I'll go on his show and he'll interview me. And then a few weeks after that, we'll have Thomas Blue on. Thomas is really well known. He's a great Strat player. And they're working on a new product as well that's coming out next year, which is really cool. So, yeah, that's an added special because the rest of the week I won't be online. I won't be on Thursday. I won't be on Sunday. I'll be back next Monday with Maury. So try and tune in tomorrow if you can, unless I decide just to go live during the week for like a random reason. But I will have some videos as well. There's a few new products coming out that I should be talking about. This thing is about to ship. I was talking about this. I haven't reviewed it yet. This should be. I need to review this big tuner. It's really cool, Peterson. So that's coming out this week, and I think there's some software updates due as well. That like I've been waiting on the JBL software update before I review that. I want them to finish the firmware completely. That's supposed to drop this week or next week as well. So, yeah, as always, just subscribe and ring the bell to my channel, Spoon's channel, and Maury's channel, and then if we do go live or post a video, you'll be notified. That's the best way to do things. So, thank you very much, gentlemen. That was great. Thanks everyone for watching. Thanks for your questions. Thanks for your time and your super chats. I really appreciate it. And I hope we can do this soon. I'll be back again next Monday with Maury, and hopefully we'll get Spoon on again soon as well. So, yeah, it's been great.
Thanks, Spoon.
Take care, everybody. Happy
Thank you.
autumn.
Yes.
Thank you, Aaron.
Enjoy the autumn, and we'll see you very soon. So take care.
I'm not lost, but I'm not